Elemental forces caused the egg to hatch. From it then came a stone monkey. The nature of monkey was irrepressible.
Oh look, Dad's being a Malpa again. Better teach him a lesson. Go get him, Jess. Child abuse?
Come at me, bro.
Jess, are we actually gonna go to the mall? Oh, yeah, Dad. I'm going. See ya.
Look, we're all gonna monkey around. Hey, some time ago I made a video in which I did a review of the Cold Steel training staff I have here. A commentator asked me if I could make a future video in which I demonstrate the entirety of the Monkey King staff form, which I showed a small portion of in that video. Well, I do apologise it's taken me this long, but with the recent release of the Wukong game, when being a smash hit success, I thought what better time than to make a comprehensive tutorial video on the usage of the Monkey King staff and of that form. Now, this is a big topic, so it's going to be a two-part video. I'm going to go over some information and the basics and some partner drills today, and then next weekend hopefully I'll make a part 2, which will be the form start to finish, and after all that you can monkey stick to your heart's content at home. And like I always say, I'm not a master, I just have learned a couple of things over the years and I'm happy to share and we can all learn together. Anyway, I hope you enjoy. Alright, firstly we're going to talk about the form we're going to learn. It's called the Monkey King staff. I'll put a short clip of me demonstrate it down below so you can see it in its entirety while we discuss. Now this is from Northern Praying Mantis style, is relatively common, so you'll see many people perform in this form. Is probably the most common traditional monkey staff form beside the one in Hungar, which is slightly different. However, you will notice if you see other people performing this, you can do it in a very solid start, stop, concentrate on the power of each technique, which is the way I do it, or it can be done in a more flowing dance-like manner. Now I always prefer performing with power and doing start, stop, concentrating on how the direction of the shots and the martial techniques. However, you can perform this any way you like. Now, how did I come to learn this form? Well, as a child in the 80s, there was a television show called Monkey Magic. Everyone got their broomsticks out and had battles at school pretending to be monkey, and people get hurt, but it was all in good fun, as it was back in the 80s, not like today for children. Now, later on, obviously, growing up on all Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Shaw Brothers films, I wish to learn martial arts from Asia just because it was so cool. And I did travel there. I had the fortunate ability to go on several very long trips to Hong Kong in my youth, back when I had hair, and I did learn Northern Praying Mantis, monkey style, and a ton of different weapons forms. And so, like I said, while I'm not expert, I know a couple of things and I'm happy to show them to you. Now, this is traditional Kung Fu. This is not a Wushu form, which almost exclusively concentrate on rolling on the ground, acting like a monkey and pogo sticking off the staff. Basically, every single traditional form of the Monkey King staff has 3 ingredients. Number 1, obviously, martial arts techniques for the staff. Number 2, specialized monkey techniques. A lot of these are some high risk, rare moves, and also some devious moves, a lot of crutch shots. And number 3, is monkey movements. Now these range from acting like a wild monkey, like literally an animal, to more what we're doing here, which is poses, which are the characteristic Monkey King poses. These mostly come from Chinese opera, and I believe that their original source would have been old classic paintings, the way the monkey looks. You know, that is very much from Chinese opera, and these are in the form more as a decorative sort of flourish. Anyway, like I said, this form should be able to be performed by anyone of, you know, most able-bodied fitness, you know, requirements. And like I always say, I'm not a master, I'm just here to share the knowledge and we'll learn together. Okay, so before we start the basic techniques, we're going to need some basic equipment, and that is your own Monkey King staff. Now, these techniques for the Monkey King staff, they use a staff size which is more popular in southern Chinese martial arts, called a double-headed staff, which is also called the eyebrow height staff, because from the ground it measures in between the user's eyebrow height and head height. Now, the northern staff, which is called the single-headed staff, basically from the ground measures up to where you can just cup your fingers over the top of the end. Now, there's some other, like all staff, like categories in China are basically based on the length of the staff. There is the Wanderer's staff here, which is roughly shoulder height. This also can be used for the Monkey King staff form, and when I have a low roof such as this, that's the one I use, because there's less chance of putting holes in the roof, which is something I certainly don't want to do. And there's also the boat pole, which is essentially double the height of the practitioner, which is another style of staff which you would see probably in Wing Chun. Now, the difference between the two main styles, the double-headed eyebrow height southern style staff and the single-headed northern style staff, is pretty much the way it's wielded. Now, the double-headed staff is called as such because it has two heads which are used equally, as in you hit equally with both ends. In order to do this, the grip is central, an even amount either side, and thumbs facing inward. Now, this also means the mechanics are more like punching, whereas the single-headed staff, the grip is more towards one end. The thumbs both face the same way towards the opponent. You have a greater distance on this end here, giving you more range to hit, and you primarily use that end, while you can hit with what is left on this end. Almost all the work is done with that end, and the techniques and mechanics of this style of northern staff are more closely related to spear techniques. So, for the Monkey King staff form is perfect to use an eyebrow height staff. However, the Wanderer's height staff is also a viable option. Now, what should the staff be constructed of? Well, for this style, we want a stiff staff, relatively speaking, not a fully loose one. So timber is definitely the cheapest, most readily available option. Maybe some waxwood. This is a bit thin. This is an offcut from making a 3-sectional staff, but if you get a thicker piece of waxwood, they are relatively cheap. They have a bit of flex and it'll do the job. And like I said, you just buy your staff and measure it and cut it to your own height. Now, you can also use hardwood. I don't have an example to show you. And you can buy specific oak hardwood staffs, usually called bows, because these are used a lot in traditional karate. And you can usually get a size very close to what you need, or as is timber, you can just trim it off to the appropriate size. Now, there's also the metal option for staffs. I have here one I bought from a martial arts store. This is a bit fancy. It's got a different coat of paint on each end. Relatively heavy. It is super solid. Like I said, this is expensive and specially made. You cannot trim it since it's rounded at the end unless you're particularly good at metal work. However, it just is within the right range for me. These are a bit more expensive, and like I said, you don't want to bang these around every day, so that might be something to get down the track for just a casual practitioner. My go-to one here, my number one staff which I use when I'm not confined for space, is essentially a metal bar which I bought at a hardware store. And if you can see here, I simply cut a cross into the end this way down with a hacksaw, and then hammered the ends over and hammered them so they dipped a little bit in, if you can see there. And this way here I could get one which is the perfect height, and I've had this for years and it was cheap and it is very, very good. Now also we have the cold steel option, which I did a whole video reviewing this. These are quite hardy. They have an octagonal end which is more in line with Okinawan martial arts. However, this one here is a good height for a wanderer's staff, is perfectly fine for monkey staffing. And like I said, if height of the ceiling is an issue, then this side is good because you can perform the basic twirl inside a room without touching the roof at all. So that is perfectly fine. So any one of these options is good, but if you're just starting out, you can easily just buy a waxwood one from any supplier, cut it to size, or your oak bow. They're probably the best because the metal ones tend to be a bit heavier, so each to their own. But like I said, all you have to do is source your own staff, and then you can cut it to the exact height that matches your height. Alright, before we learn the form, it's important to learn the basic techniques of the double-headed staff. Now, obviously, a lot of people think, oh, basics, this is going to be some boring stuff, I don't want to do that. However, this is the most important stuff, and quite frankly, if you can do all the basics I show you in this video and the partner drills, that's everything you need to go off and start applying the techniques. Whereas if I just do the form with nothing behind it, you've learned a dance routine. So, we'll start with I'm categorizing things here in a slightly European way, as in I'm going by tempo, 1, 2, and 3 tempo style strokes. So we'll start with the most basic one, just single tempo, as in it's just one movement. That will be, we'll start with one way out already. So from here, simply switch the technique. So we're striking with the tip. We are not changing grips. Our grip is staying roughly shoulder width and central to the staff. Get a piece of masking tape and put it directly in the center when you're training, if that will help you. Or get an extra marker, that's up to you. However, one thing to keep in mind when we're doing this technique is, if possible, the center should remain fixed. So we are doing this. This hand's coming back and that is pushing forward, and that is where your power is coming from. You're not going like this, or you're not sort of going here out and then pulling back, or you're not pulling back here and then swinging out. The center of the staff should remain fairly much in place. So when we're hitting head high, as you can see, essentially this hand here is down. It's almost you're doing a classic karate style punch. So we're just pushing here. Very easy stuff. Our hands stay fixed and we're pushing here. Now we can do the low shot, which is the same. However, whereas our front hand striking is higher than our rear hand, here it's just reversed. So the rear hand is up here towards my shoulder, and the hand that is doing the striking is lower. So just go down, 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 targeting the legs. This is all very simple. Now, this strike here also doubles as a basic parry. If something is coming either cutting this way or coming straight on my face, I can cover it this way here on each side. Likewise, something is coming to hit my leg, I can cover it this way. So, essentially, this move is the most dead basic staff move. It is both a parry and a strike. Like I said, you don't stop here, you go here, You can rotate the waist to put more power and to cover more ground if need be. You can mix up, you know, high, low, low, high, 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 low, low. Any different combination. Now, if you'll notice here, this tuck, this becomes very important. You don't try and hold it perfectly straight. It will limit your move, and you don't have the elbows flared out, which goes doubly important for punching itself. You not punch with your elbows out here. So same thing here. You push, push, push. Even when you're going low, the elbow pulls straight back like this. You not go like this with your elbows flared out. Anyway, that is the basic technique. Now, one thing too, when you're striking low, when this tuck, you not do this, because if your wrist flexes, you are likely to collect yourself. So it always stays above. You always curl the wrist in and tuck it as you strike low, or any movement such as this, because you do not want to have your hand flex backwards and strike yourself. You're going to go crack and knock yourself out just trying to hit someone in the leg, and you can tuck it to your shoulder as well, such as that. So single tempo, 1, out, 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 and low, low, low. Very simple stuff. Concentrate on keeping the center here fixed in the same position, and you cannot go wrong. And that should be a bit away from your way too. You don't sit here doing this either. And it's a block and a parry. So that's the first technique. Okay, now let's go on to the next strike, the two-tempo strike. I call this two-tempo because it is essentially two movements. The hand slides first, then you strike out. Now, as you can see, the width of the hand placement, roughly shoulder width, it does not actually change. It just goes down towards the end of the staff wall. So we achieve this by sliding this end down, and then pushing this end out, sliding this end down, and then pushing this end out, sliding it down, and pushing it out, sliding it down, pushing it out. Helps if you do a bit of a waist rotation, slide it down, and push it out. So from the side here, as you can see, doing it this way here gives you more range and more power. So slide down and push it out. The disadvantage is that it is slightly slower because you're doing one and then throwing it out. That's why it's a two tempo, because one go. It's not just go like the last one, which is one tempo, it's just one action. Here it's like 1, 2. So you can do this side to side relatively easy. Don't forget the tuck, like we discussed earlier. It tucks up here against your shoulder. The wrist has to fold and loosen, and these strikes here, I think why a lot of people find them difficult is because you have to start slow and get the sense of when to relax your grip and when to close it. Now, if you're using an oak bow, you want it well sanded with a nice finish so you don't have splinters. The waxwood staff's one of the biggest advantages of them is since it's perfectly round and smooth, you should not get splinters on it. And if you have a very nice smooth steel staff, it should just flow through your hand. The plastic one, not as well, but it still works. So that's basically horizontal strikes with the two-tempo strike. Now we also have strikes in the vertical. Just to make sure I don't do any untoward damage to the ceiling, I'll grab the cold steel one for these. So we'll start with the uppercut because it is the most simple. You start when you're finished basically from the exact same position as the horizontal strike. So here we pull it down. As you can see, this turns over. As you pull it down, this slides up the end, and then we push up. Turn over. This hand here has changed to facing downward from here, and then push it up like that. So turn over and push it up, turn over, push it up. Now, as you can see, we end in the exact same position. So from here, up, 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 up. when you are under it here, we're not lifting it in this weak way like this. It's like you're doing your bench press or your shoulder press. You are under it this way. So as we hit, we're hitting this way here, even if your thumb isn't even attached or wrapped around, it's underneath like that, like that. So it's not like this or flared out, it is under like that. Because when you put a heavy weight on, you not hold it like this, you always have it with the wrists bent this way so the weight lines up with your forearm like this, or slam someone under the chin and knock them out cold or break their jaw. You want a strong structure. So we can go from side to side, to up, to up, to up. You pull back here, up, pull back here, up. Now this will be tricky. It's going to take a while to learn when to slide, when to grip tight, release, slide, grip tight, release, slide. That is the tricky part of these motions, especially when you're trying to do them with some, speed. Now, what about the vertical cutting downward? Here it's a bit more complicated. So we pull forward. So if we start this neutral grip, we pull forward. So we have less stick on this end here. Then as this goes down, we push down. We pull forward and push down. Now as you can see, the tuck, rather than being up here at the shoulder, the tuck is down against the upper thigh. So when you go here, down one, down one, it tucks at the upper thigh. Now like I said, the grip's the same, it's just shifted from the center towards one end. So from here, this hand is high, slides out, this hand here, slide, 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 and then the other way. So from here, boom, boom, works better with waist rotation. Now, one thing about this to keep in mind, if you do not want to injure yourself badly, as this hand slides out, as you come down, keep it towards this side of the body. Do not keep it towards the middle of the body, because obviously you are going to catch yourself in a very nasty way. So slightly on this side, so when you come over, it rests here. Again, slightly on this side, so when you come over, it rests here. You're not going middle and then catching yourself like that. Down, down, down. And like I said, it is more stick out here, and you reach, and you've got more range and power chopping down. Now, the sliding, the portion that makes the grip a little bit wider, now this doubles as your parry, and often, such as sword play, when the retraction is often the parry, here, when you slide the grip out, even if it's an even slide both sides, in order so you can strike either way, that is the parry. So to parry this side, it is here. To parry this side, it is here. We are catching their power in the center of the staff, not up the end. We are opening our hands up. So from here, since we've slid them both out to the side, you can attack this way or this way. So here one, here two. Oof, it is windy today. And notice it is always the top hand goes across. It is not this. Now for starters, that is not quite as strong of a structure, and also it makes it kind of hard to get off the next strike. Whereas if you are here, then it is very easy to pop that up or pop that down. Here, you're gonna cross over, you have to do something different than just a basic riposte, as we call it in European style martial arts. So the sliding you do here, that can be a block in combat. Likewise, up high, we can go side to side, because you've slid up high, down low, the same thing. So you essentially have 4 areas. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we'll cover this with a partner later on, but that is the larger parry, which goes with a tempo block. As you can see, the distance between the hands, thumbs are still in, but it is in a much greater distance. So 1 across, 2 across, 3 up high, 4 down low. Now obviously we can combine this with footwork, and that disguises the actual shot. So if you parry, you can come with whatever shot rather than just straight off the bat opening and then going. Here our first movement, the first tempo, can be disguised or used to create a parry. Now the third technique I'm going to show, a 3-tempo strike, is essentially relatively unique to the monkey. Now these style of strikes are used in northern style of single head quite regularly, because you have enough room that you use one hand completely, let go of the other and swing it through. However, you'll find that it's mainly in the monkey style traditional staff techniques that a double-headed staff, halfway through they'll switch to some techniques from single-headed and switch back. It's part of the devious, more unorthodox, flexible monkey style to switch between single and double-headed now and again. Now, these techniques will show the most basic one, because we're going to drill this one with a partner later. So when you have it, you can usually start from here. We'll get to this in a minute. So you can swing sideways, or you can swing straight down. Now, I can't do that because of the roof, but just a massive, just overhead swing, full power, crushing blow, often with all your weight and advancing step, and you're trying to literally cripple their defenses, just slam straight through them, cave them in. Now the reason this is 3 tempo is because you have to set for it, you have to wind up, so it's 1 tempo, setting and winding up, you strike, and then now no matter what happens, hit or no hit, miss completely, you have to recover. That's the third motion. So it's wind up, strike and recover. Recovery takes 1 tempo because that is their chance in that moment, because the tempo is like a moment, they can attack you, so you have to recover it quickly. So the basic one is to wind up and strike over that. This is not very much technique is used here. Now we have 2 different ones. The first one is striking overhead, which obviously you come the full way over and pull down, just touch, and it is relatively simple. Now winding up, you are often doing something like this. You're completely letting go and turning it over. Now this is also another parry. Here, like this. Now what's the point of this parry? This is a parry when someone is bearing down on you, and maybe that is not quite enough. So you can slide out of the way like this, usually with a side step. So you're staying here, they're coming, you've stepped a bit, they've missed you, and they slide off. Which is why the hand cupping for this parry, which is used quite often in the form, is just cupping it. It is not gripping it, because if it is gripping it, once their staff hits and slides down, it is going to collect your fingers. If, you know, whatever, the old days, someone's hitting with an edged weapon and you're encouraging it to slide down that way, you're going to lose your fingers. So whenever you perform this parry, which is often in the form, you are cupping it, so there's a smooth run straight down here for their weapons. So from here, you can parry this way and strike downwards. Now, the tempo strike with regards to horizontal blows is a somewhat different technique. Now, the wind up is not often a parry. The wind up is more getting into position with it over the shoulder and just baseball bat swinging it through. So you can go one side, it's not through here, but you can go one side and two sides like this. Now, the important thing here is you need to slide towards the end, because if you kept it in a, especially with a full eyebrow high style stick like this, and you went to crack, you can catch yourself quite easily in the ribs if you do not have it down towards one end. So the wind up here often is the position you end up in. This is a very common position in many of the forms of over the shoulder. However, from this point they know pretty much what's coming. It is sideways horizontal striking, and you miss your own body by having this not too long. The wrist rotates and it comes around, and you can also swing over the head, turn your footwork and go for a second swing. These forms of techniques are closer to what you'd see in a single-headed staff, but it's good to know them because in monkey technique, these techniques are often used, as in you'll start like a monkey style pose, swing it around over the head, and you've made them run backwards, or you've beat their weapon out of the way, and then you follow up with a huge power shot like that. So often the first swing is a beat to knock their weapon down, or to make them retreat and pull back, and then the second shot is to full turn, full body, almost like a spinning tornado kick, full turn and point everything you've got into that horizontal shot. So we don't do that too often in southern styles, that's more of a northern style technique, but it is good to know because it is in the monkey form. But to recap, for a 3-tempo shot coming vertically, usually there's a wind up, whereas you get ready, make sure one hand is close to the end, and then you come over the top with power. There's not much technique here, it's more setting up, getting ready to wind it for either horizontal or a vertical by putting it as close as possible to one end, and then going through, and then usually some form of recovery where you catch it. There's different situations, but we'll get to that in the form. But like I said, the big parry, which you can do as a wind up, is in of itself another technique. Here, when you're parrying this way here, over the top, you are encouraging their staff or weapon to slide off. You are cupping, you are not gripping, because if you do this, you're encouraging it to slide through your fingers. So whenever you do these techniques, and it is primarily done with your strong hand as the high hand, because when you're doing this style of parry, often you are setting up for a big, either horizontal or vertical, big smashing blow. Now, obviously, the advantage of this is these full swings from a wind up are the most powerful, and if you can imagine, they are the most long range, because I'm not even hitting with the other hand. Gripping is as far away from me as possible, especially the further I get down towards the end. So these ones here, as you go up in tempos, as they become more and more movements involved, they get more powerful and they get more long range for each step. However, they get slightly slower, and with the full swing, you have to recover after you've swung. So, to recap, parrying this way, you are encouraging it to slide. Strong hand is the high hand, left hand is cupping, not gripping. And from here, if you swing down, you wind up, you start the swing here, or you horizontal, continue the wind sideways. And if it's sideways, when you get to here, you do not break at the thumb here and lose your weapon. You turn the hand over and allow this end here to slide underneath your hand, and from there you can go to a second shot or as many shots as you want. Likewise, when you come down this way, you fold the wrist back to recover it. You do not try and stop and rely only on your thumb. You can fold the wrist this way or that way, depending on how you're going to recover it or the technique. You do not try and stop midway and rely only on your thumb, because if you're trying to take a weapon off someone, that is what you do. You break it at the thumb, is where you break the grip. So big parry, big wind up. Do not leave too much this way, because you will hit yourself in the ribs when you're doing the horizontal, or you could even be silly enough to swing this way and have it come up under your own chin if you do not slide down when you are winding up for just a big power stroke. So those are 3 basic ways to hit the staff, all different timings and all different advantages and disadvantages. Now, one more technique we're going to go through in the basics, because obviously everyone wants to know this because it looks cool, and that is the figure of 8, the flower, the twirl, the spin. I don't know what people are calling it these days. Essentially, there's 2 ways to do it, and I'll go over both of them, but they have nearly the same mechanics. Now, what is the martial purposes technique? Sometimes you're winding up to perform something else. Sometimes you are just basically like you're laying your way out of a fight. You are retreating and laying down a bunch of like little strikes to keep them at bay. Sometimes you might be bullying them backwards. But it is not the be-all end-all technique, although almost everyone who picks up a staff wants to instantly start doing this. Now, there's 2 ways to do it, and I'll show you both of them, but unfortunately the first one you do a lot of is the way you always feel most naturally doing it, and depending on what you wish to do, then basically, or what your focus is, basically you might want to choose carefully which one you practice first if this is your first time. So we'll go with the martial way of doing it, the traditional way. This is more stronger because you have a tighter, better grip the whole way with both hands, and also you do not deviate from the classic grip. Now, we'll start here on one side. So we're making 2 circles on each side of the body. The real trick is to know when to cross, and you cross with the top hand almost like the parry. How we cross that way with the top hand when we're doing the parry, if that makes it easier to think about. So I'll start this way. So turn, 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 turn here. Now we cross, turn, turn, turn. Basically the exact reverse. Now that this hand here is high, we cross, turn, turn, turn. Now that this hand here is high, when the hand on the side you're on is high, is when you cross, turn, turn, turn. Hand is high, cross, if that helps you remember it. Turn it, turn it, turn it, keeping a relative grip, although you do have to loosen, particularly when you get to here. This hand here loosens a fair bit. Turning the waist can help with your side on. So from here, you can turn the waist. Now keep in mind, you, unlike the short strikes, you are keeping the center of the staff relatively close to your body. You're not trying to turn it out here. It is a technique which does come close to your body. So as you can see, it is very simple. Now this way is a slightly slower way of doing it. However, it's a more solid gripped way, and it is a more traditional way. So as you come around, right here, 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 turn now, turn now, turn now, turn now. So if you go here, obviously you can't go any further on that side. So you turn, and then you can go further. Here, retract, so we turn, and you can go further. So that is the basic pattern. If you ever get confused, just hold it out, go here, start your circle as this side here, the side the staff's on is high, change sides, continue the circle. Now Same thing, mirror image, this side here is high, change sides. Very simple stuff. However, if someone just flat out jumps out and starts going a million miles an hour, you might be like, you know, how are they actually doing that? How am I going to do that? So it's easy to have someone to show you from the side. It turns down and turn and change sides. Now, we're not rowing the boat either. You want them to be relatively as vertical as possible, not, you know, it's hard to actually make yourself do it wrong. So that's one way of doing it. The other way has a slightly weaker grip, but is a lot quicker. So while that way may be the more martial way to do it, this is a more demonstrative way. If you are doing it on stage or on the film, it will be super fast, and it doesn't matter if it works or not. So here we are primarily gripping with our strong hand, a lot closer to the center. We're not gripping here, we are gripping more closer to the center, so you might need to slide the hand in. If we have our tape directly on the center, we are gripping just this side of the tape. That is the exact good spot to have it just this side of the center. Now the left hand does back it up, it acts more as a guide. So you can have it open the whole time. You never actually grip it with the left hand. So as we turn, exact same pattern, we cross here. You can add a bit of speed to change this side and push it down, cross, push it down, cross. So as you can see, the left hand here acts more like a guide, and we can do it so much more quicker. Now, do a front on for you. So one way to do it is to push out here like this, pull it back. Now you're set, change sides, push it, get to here, we've got our palm, push it down across, it turns, push it, here, you can guide it up a bit, down. So the left hand is guiding it and adding at key points. Usually here, a bit of energy here. You can have a bit of energy here, here, and you can get a much tighter circle with this one. Now, that may seem a bit tricky, but like I said, if you have learnt this one, you know the path the staff must travel. So then you are just placing the hand close to the center, and you are following that path with the palm guiding it wherever it is necessary. So you could literally do this with one hand, which you do in the more advanced form, and the left hand is just guiding it. So these are your two options for doing the spin. Like I said, choose which one suits you best, which one suits your goals, because the one you learn first is usually the one you are the best on. Like I said, you can change it over here. But for purists, you'd probably want to do the traditional thumb in way. So now we're going to take all the basic moves we just learned, and we're going to train them with a partner, which is the best way to learn how to apply them in real life. So the very first thing we can do is practice the short strokes, just standing stationary. So we can go here, just across each other. Now you can mix it up, going high, low. I like to go 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now that we've practiced it standing relatively stationary, we can add step in to make it a bit more alive. Now one person advances, the other retreats. So I go forward, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then naturally she'll follow me back. You ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can just go back and forward as fast or slow as you like, with big or small steps as you like. Alright, so now we can try with our partner doing the 2 tempo strokes, as in sliding out and pushing forward with greater length and power. And they can do the larger parry, in which they use the center of the stick to block the strike rather than the end, and they spread their hands out, and that gives them the setup to throw the same stroke back. However, we take turns attacking and defending when we do this. I'll show you how it works. So I'll come back here, I'll begin sideways, she stops, get ready, other side, she stops, get ready, high, she stops, then get ready, low, she stops. Then naturally it will be her turn to attack me, and I repeat the same. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that when you are parrying, so she'll come at me from this side, for example, and I'll parry this way here, it's always a good idea to attack not on the same plane. So from here, I'm already set up to either come forward here or to go low here. So likewise, if I parry high, so if she comes down here, I'm already set up very easily, depending on which side is more advantageous to go with a horizontal strike. So if you parry this way, usually you're set up for that strike. If you parry this way, you're set up for either one of those strikes. Let's hang in now. So, the 3 tempo strike, you can practice this as a drill together. It is a tiny bit more intricate, but bear with me and keep in mind, I can't get a full swing happening with the roof where it is, and it's not the best out there, so we'll just make do. We'll have to imagine I'm throwing a brutal full strike at this young lady, which I do. So, to begin with, one person will set up and step in, the other side steps and lets us slide down to the side. Now she pivots around, now she's ready to come at me, so in the time I have to recover, and as her strike comes down, I too slide away and then get ready. I've set up, then she gets ready, so I have to step aside, it goes down, step aside, it goes down, and she comes at me, I step aside, and I go here. Now obviously you can practice this with bigger swings and more space depending on your room, but as you notice, the stepping pattern is circular because as they cut down, you are not attempting to do the parry we just done and take the full force here. You are stepping out of the way and allowing to slide. If they slide here, naturally they're facing this way, Jack Kid, and you turn and come at them from this angle here. Hopefully if you're quick enough, they're still facing that way, but when we're practicing, if they're not fully recovered for the next parry, give them a moment. But in real life, you try and slip it and hit, just like that. And that's how you apply the technique. Well, I guess that's enough monkeying around for one day. I'm going to do part 2 of the video, and that will be the entire form and applications. Till then, see ya.